Annie Gonzalez. I'm a senior and a psychology and Spanish double major. I did my research in collaboration with my mentor, Dr. Rafaela Fiore, and we named it Wrong Place, Wrong Time, Inclusion and Exclusion for Undocumented Students in Higher Education. So the research problem that we wanted to look at is the effects of sanctuary and non-sanctuary states on DACA recipients' ability to obtain a degree in higher education among Hispanic Latino and non-Hispanic Latino DACA recipients. So before I begin, I would like to define some terms. In order to understand DACA, we need to have a brief background on the DREAM Act. The DREAM Act, or Development, Relief, and Education for Alien Minors, would provide undocumented youth with the opportunity to obtain conditional permanent residency, and as a result, a pathway to citizenship. This is where the term dreamer comes from. A dreamer is a young undocumented immigrant that was brought to the United States as a child and has lived here and gone to school, and in many cases they identify as American. There's been several versions of the DREAM Act since 2001. However, Congress has failed to pass the bill. DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, is a result of these failed negotiations. And it was created under the Obama era as a temporary solution to allow eligible undocumented youth a temporary protection against being deported with a two-year renewal process. DACA also allowed recipients to apply for higher education. They were able to get a social security number and a driver's license and a work permit. I would like to note that unlike the DREAM Act, DACA does not provide a pathway to citizenship. A sanctuary is a place that has taken steps to protect undocumented immigrants from deportation by limiting state and local law enforcement communications with federal immigration authorities. Sanctuary reduces the fear of deportation and possible family separation among undocumented individuals. I forgot to mention that all DACA recipients are dreamers. However, not all dreamers are DACA recipients. And back to the sanctuary, I would like to note that there are 7 states that have declared themselves sanctuary. 16 states provide in-state tuition for undocumented immigrants, and 23 states are non-sanctuary states. So the research questions that we looked at were what is the relationship between sanctuary and non-sanctuary states on DACA recipients' ability to obtain a degree in higher education, and are non-Hispanic Latino DACA recipients less likely to seek support in obtaining a degree in higher education than Hispanic Latino recipients. And I also wanted to look at the role that these DACA recipients' perceptions had in their investment to obtain a degree in higher education. So we developed a quantitative and qualitative online self-reported survey to compare the perceived responses of these 3 scales among the Hispanic and non-Hispanic DACA population. So all participants took the same survey. However, individuals that identified as non-Hispanic or Latino were linked to a second set of questions that were free response, and we also included demographic questions. The scales that I will be using: College Self-Efficacy Inventory, Multidimensional Scale of Perceived Social Support, and the Life Orientation Test Revised, have all been used with undergraduate students to determine their academic success. There are other studies that have also used self-efficacy to assess non-traditional minority students. And our study will be using these scales to focus on specifically on undergraduate traditional DACA recipients' academic success. So the College Self-Efficacy Inventory was created to measure the belief in one's ability to obtain, to successfully engage in college-related behaviors. Previous research has shown that self-efficacy influences how individuals feel about themselves, think, and behave. And other studies have shown that an individual's perception of themselves can be highly influenced by their legal and social status. So, an individual's investment to obtain a degree in higher education may depend on that individual's sense of self-efficacy. We also will be using 2 more scales that are in relation to support systems, as well as an individual's degree of optimism have shown that they also influence an individual's sense of self-efficacy, and which in turn may influence an individual's investment to obtain a degree in higher education. The multidimensional scale perceived social support was created to assess the social support of individuals in relation to friends, significant others, and family. And the life orientation revised was used to measure participants' optimism and pessimism in relation to their ability to obtain a degree in higher education. We also had a qualitative analysis for the non-Hispanic DACA recipients, as I mentioned before. This qualitative section is necessary because of the small number of non-Hispanic DACA recipients, as well as the lack of research done on this particular population. The qualitative section will allow us to better understand this population in terms of their needs and concerns, and give them a voice in the community, give a voice to this community that has been disregarded in previous research. Other research studies that I looked at focused on minorities but not the undocumented population, and then the studies that I looked at that focused on the undocumented population only focused on the Latina Hispanic population or the Asian population. I would like to mention that as of now, we don't have enough participants to analyze any data. However, I thought I would include these percentages that I found to be helpful within my research. So, 76% of DACA recipients are of Hispanic Latino descent. However, there is a 24% that are of non-Hispanic Latino descent. And most of the general public is unaware of this diversity within the DACA population. As you can see, 65% of DACA recipients are from Mexico. South Korea has 15, but then you also have India with 16%. Nicaragua has 19, China has 3, and then there's more, but these were just like the top countries of origin. I would also like to note that in general, 10% of the undocumented youth are eligible to attend college, and even less of that actually end up finishing their degree. And 18% of DACA recipients are likely to enroll in college. There was a study that found that even though the Latino undocumented students are provided with support systems, they still feel discouraged to confide in their teachers and counselors because of this fear of being exposed from their status. And from the very few people that have taken our study from the non-Hispanic population, one of them noted that they felt that they could hide their status because they're not perceived as undocumented, unlike in the Latino Hispanic community. Even if you might not be undocumented, you might people would just be like, oh, you're Mexican, you're not a citizen. But even though that this individual could hide because they're not perceived as undocumented, they also felt that they didn't have anybody to identify with in the DACA community. So expected results, DACA recipients in sanctuary states will be more likely to obtain a degree in higher education because of the access of legal protection provided by the states, as well as financial and emotional support provided compared to DACA recipients in non-sanctuary states. And non-Hispanic Latino DACA recipients are less likely to seek the same support in obtaining a degree in higher education because of the lack of representation in academic support groups, the media, and political discourses. So we hope to raise public awareness of this non-Hispanic population that so far has been underrepresented, and the emotional and social influences that, social difficulties that this population encounters in relation to their academic success. Future research could be directed towards the understanding of the social factors that this population encounters for migrating to the United States, and the information could be used to educate teachers, counselors, or other staff to be more knowledgeable about how to advise their DACA students on issues related to academic success, and also to have them be more aware of the challenges, especially if the challenges are different for recipients that are not of Hispanic Latino descent. Good. Any questions?
I have a question about your second anticipated or expected outcome about non-Latino, non-Hispanic DACA recipients being less likely, thank you, to seek support because of lack of representation. How did you come to expect that, or how did you get to that place where that's what you're hypothesizing?
So, since the DACA population, well, based on my own experiences and the groups, like the nonprofit organizations that I've been involved with, the main focus is on the Hispanic Latino community, and also based on the response that one of the non-Hispanic participants mentioned. Before that, I was trying to find research on the non-Hispanic population, and I found a post on Reddit. Somebody had asked people that were not of Latino descent, and they had DACA, how they felt, and it had several responses, and they felt like they weren't being represented, and like they couldn't speak out about these issues because they didn't have anybody to relate to. So that's how I feel like they're not, they might not feel encouraged to seek the support. The support might be there, but since they're not represented, they might not feel encouraged to do so. Yes.
Kind of going off of that you just brought up with Reddit, is there any way for you to potentially incorporate social media as a way to get some of these voices from individuals who
So I've actually contacted several nonprofit organizations in relation to undocumented immigrants and the DACA population, and I asked them to share my survey, and some of them have, and as well as my mentor, Dr. Rafaela Fiore. She has contacted with other universities, and she has asked the chairs in the Hispanic serving institutions to also share the survey as well. Yes?
So it's interesting because some of what you're saying is really about being context dependent, right? So if you are an undocumented Asian immigrant in Los Angeles, in East LA, let's be more specific, right? You're probably not going to find a whole bunch of other Asian folks in your situation, but if you're in Houston, you're going to have a very different situation, right? And there's pockets of Houston, right?
I was thinking of Koreatown.
Well, you could think of Koreatown, you could think of, or if you're Central American here, from Central American in Washington DC, right? Like we could come up with lots of different examples of what that is. And so one of the things I'm glad that you asked the question about how are you gathering people, because going to people who are connected to nonprofits is already sort of a bit of a bias, right? These are people who are already connected, already maybe have a different experience with DACA because they're connected.
Right.
And so, if you have thought about something like snowball sampling to try to get students maybe who have not been successful in connecting with nonprofits or who are not currently in school, because there may be reasons why they're not, right? Because they couldn't get the assistance to even get that far. And I'd be happy to extend whatever help is needed to help you get into some of those populations, because this is a really tough population to try to get a decent
Yeah.
sample from.
Exactly.
And also because of security questions, right? People are undocumented, but they don't want to tell you that they're undocumented because they don't know you,
Right.
right? And so it's really hard. So I mean, I'm encouraged to hear that you're getting responses at all, frankly.
Yeah.
That's really good. Just to sort of push you in thinking about maybe like how you're getting that sample. And it may be that you get a very sort of highly educated bias, but when you write it about it, then you have to contextualize that, you know, that this population is not necessarily representative. It's just this one slice of the undocumented population that you were able to plug into.
Right.
So really interesting.
Thank you.
Can I just piggyback and just say, okay, and I actually have some contacts in LA for non-static, that might help, we can talk about it later, but something to also think about is just not just looking at the legal status, but also the social capital in communities too. I think with undocumented Asian populations in particular, social capital surrounding higher education resources, that's actually, there's a body of literature about that and data that you can also tap into. So that there are different ways. So I'm actually happy to like collaborate.
So you've got a team of people.
Yeah. Yeah, we do research on this, so it's definitely all right.
Yes.
I just want to say thank you and wonderful job, because this conversation needed to be made, and I hope give you luck.
Also wanted to mention that today the House is going to vote on a bill in relation to the separation of families, and I think also DACA. But I haven't checked up on
The first bill failed.
It failed?
Yes. The second one is going to probably not even go to the floor.